a turnout, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to join our webinar. I think it's going to really help, and I think you'll be happy that you did. And also, congratulations for bringing so many of your team members, because it's a trickle-down theory. The more of your team that gets it, the more of your team that's on board, that's going to help you to transform what happens, future of your marketing. So my name is Dan Fitzgerald. I'm owner of Central Station Marketing Technology. And today in our webinar, we're going to be talking about 5 ways to transform your online marketing results. Okay, so let's start by taking a look at 5-star reviews. Okay, so everybody knows about reviews. Everybody knows that before you even go to a restaurant, you want to check out, what other people have said. Before you go to the movies, it's like, let's see what other people said. So reviews have become paramount today. Well, as contractors, it's even more important. Contractors are seen as, kind of shady. I don't know if I trust this guy coming into my house. So we're going to be talking about 5-star reviews and how do we get them onto our sites. Okay, number 2, hyper-local site content. Now, we've heard that term hyper-local, but what does that really mean? And why is it important to us? So this is an area that could be a real game changer, and I'm going to spend some time to show you what you can do to beat your competition in the hyper-local side of your website. Number 3 is PPC advertising. Now, we all know about pay-per-click. We've all heard so much about it, but pay-per-click is tricky because, like any advertising, you can lose your shirt as well as succeed. So we're gonna spend some time having a real concise strategy conversation about your pay-per-click. Number 4 is our tracking lead sources. Okay, this is an area that most companies don't even pay attention to, but where are your leads coming from? And what leads are provided that are quality leads, and which sources are providing those leads? And which sources aren't, and are we wasting money? And number 5 is going to be maximizing our existing customers. So what do we mean by that? Well, you've generated a lead. What are you doing with that lead? How are we cultivating it? Once it becomes a client, are we working with them once and then forgetting them? Well, this is what we're going to be focusing on today. So let's get started. Let's go right into our 5-star reviews. Okay, so with reviews, we want everyone to think of our company as the epitome in our field. So we want raving fans, right? And when we have raving fans, others feel like, hey, I don't have to worry about trusting this company. This company's already been vetted by my neighbor, by these other people. So we know that we need 5-star reviews. We know that we want them on our site. We know we want a lot of them. The question is, how do we get them on our site? What do we do to be able to capitalize on our customers, our happy customers, and getting them to talk about us? Well, this is a screenshot of our platform, the Central Station Marketing Technology platform. It's a hosting platform, and it allows you to have a lot of power and a lot of control over what happens with your leads and how do we communicate with our customers. So if you see this link that says pioneerbasement.com/survey in the red, that link is what you provide to your customers, your happy customers. And the key to generating referrals and getting them on your site is to not just ask once, but ask multiple times. So if we want reviews, if we want referrals, if we want testimonials, we need to ask. So this survey, when clicked on, it can be emailed to the customer, it can be handed to the customer, but when clicked on, this is the job completion survey that pops up for them. So it's all there. You can see there's 4 questions. We can add to those questions. You can customize whatever you'd like. We can change the questions to be what you want, and we can have more questions if you'd like as well. Now this job completion survey takes them only a couple seconds to fill out. When they do, they click Submit Survey. It goes right back to the platform that I just showed you, and then it gets disseminated right on your website. So it's simple. It's a simple process. Also, what you're seeing can be right on your cell phone. So this survey can be called up in the home, right on your cell phone, and you can literally hand your happy customer the job survey right there on the spot. They take a couple seconds, fill it in, hit send, boom, you've got that survey and that review right on your website. So, I mean, it's a crucial way of increasing your credibility and your trust for your existing customers, and also it's beneficial to Google for ranking. So it serves as an SEO, search engine optimization component, as well as a customer client, well, prospective client, visitor to your site, conversion tactic, okay? And both are important. So we're going to be talking about both throughout the webinar. Now, this Review Central is the hosting platform for these surveys and these reviews. So it's a third party, so it comes across as being professional and credible. Now, we don't just want our reviews on our website. We also want them on Google. We want them on Yelp. We want them on any other, Facebook, any other third-party review platforms. So how do we do that? Well, let me show you. This is interesting. The job completion survey is set up within the platform on Review Central so that if they provide you with a 4 or better star review, a dialog box pops up and it thanks them for completing the performance survey. It tells them how we appreciate feedback, and it also asks them if they wouldn't mind clicking on Google or Yelp or Facebook and going there and giving the same high quality review. So this is a way that maybe not everybody's going to do it, but a number of them will, and now you've got your review on Google as well as on your website. Now, the benefit to having it on your site is that you control what's on there. You're not going to have a bad review on your own site. Off of your site, you want to only provide this request to your happy customers so that you know you're controlling the messaging that they're going to put on Google or a third party. Now, there's another benefit in reviews that is important as well, and that's reputation management. Okay, so today, more so than ever before, we have to be really careful about making sure that every customer is happy. And if they're not happy, even if it was something that was on them, I mean, we know that every customer is not, somebody that really is somebody that you can trust, and sometimes there's some crazies out there. So you have to make sure that they don't leave and provide bad reviews on these third-party sites. So here's what happens. Let's say that they gave you a review and it's not 4 stars. Say they were unhappy for whatever reason, even if they were just wanted something crazy that you couldn't even provide, which sometimes happens, and they give you, say, a 2-star review. Well, a different dialog box pops up. They get a different email, and that email says, "Thank you for completing the job survey. We review each and every one of our surveys internally for quality and training purposes, and if you weren't completely satisfied, please call our general manager," and it gives that contact information. Now, what happens here is it gives you the opportunity to make good with that unhappy customer prior to them going to Google and just venting, and now you can circumvent that, you can cut it off at the pass, you can turn them into a happy customer, and that's your reputation component. So the Review Central and generating these reviews is important in multiple ways. So that's number one, okay? That's our first area of focus. Second is probably the one that I think is the most important of anything we're going to talk about today, and that is hyperlocal. Hyperlocal content onto your site. So hyperlocal, we sometimes have heard that term. What does that mean? Hyperlocal, and why is it important to us? Well, it's all about Google. I mean, for SEO, Google drives everything. I mean, all the other search engines kind of follow in line with what Google is looking for. So keeping our finger on the pulse of Google's algorithms and what Google is looking for from your site is crucial. And here's an area that really we give you guys an opportunity to dominate your marketplace, even if you're little. And it's something that your competitors aren't able to capitalize on. And what that is geolocal city page optimization. So what am I talking about when I say city pages? Well, every town in your coverage area should have its own page with unique content on it. Now, if you have a city page, say it's, you know, a town in your coverage area, and you put content on there that is the same as every other city, then Google is going to penalize you for that. So that's not a benefit. However, if that same city page has unique content, new content, content not something that you say about yourself, but something that your customer says about you. Maybe it's a review. Maybe it's a, you know, a picture and a description on the job of something that you were working on. Maybe it's a video. That type of content is a game changer. And I'll tell you why. What we found is that type of city page can actually rank. It can rank above your main homepage, and it can rank above your competitors. So let me show you what a typical city page might look like. So here's an example of one contractor's city page. So if you read here, it says basement waterproofing and crawl space services in Providence. That's Providence, Rhode Island. Now, there's content about Providence, Rhode Island. It's within the actual website, but if you look down at the bottom, you'll see, you know, customer reviews. And this, you'll see the second page here, that's scrolling. That's all on this city page. You'll see all of those reviews. Well, that's what we just talked about. So those reviews that you're generating through that survey are now going to be disseminated onto the city that that survey came from. And it's automated. So this is what sets you apart. Now, in addition to reviews, you'll see there's testimonials that were from customers that this client had in Providence, Rhode Island. Below that, you're going to see completed jobs. And you'll see little photos, thumbnails. Well, when you click on that job, any photo that was taken on the job and the descriptions of what they called you for and what you did there is now accessible to not only visitors that come to the site that might be from Providence and they want to see, you know, what work you've done in their town, but also Google is seeing this and saying, wow, this company isn't even located in Providence. In fact, this company isn't even located in Rhode Island. They're outside of the state, and yet this city page is ranking ahead of their competitors. So what's happening is that they can actually get work, they can get leads from Google in Providence, Rhode Island, when they are not even in the same town. They're not even in the same state. So this is a game changer, guys, and it's crucial to be able to get this content onto your site and onto these city pages. Now, you want to have a city page like this for every town that you work in, and it takes time to build it up. But with the Jupiter platform, is what we call the Central Station Marketing Technology platform, that hosts these sites and provides this technology for you to do this, very quickly and easily you're able to utilize the technology to get this content onto your site without you having to be a programmer. So let me show you another example. In addition to city pages, we also have service pages. So I'll show you what one of those looks like. A service page is the type of work that you're doing. And you'll see on the sidebars on the left in the blue, each one of those is a different service that this company provides. That's what you should have on your website, because you don't know what somebody's searching for. So all the services that you provide need to be represented, and then they need to have multiple pages under them to show that prospect that's coming in. Because if they're coming in for one service, they don't necessarily care that much about the others. But they want to know everything they can know about that service and how you provide it. What's the problem that they might have? Why do they have that problem? Also, what are the solutions to it? And then what are the solutions you offer? Why are they better? I mean, all of that information should be on every service you provide. So here's an example of where local content, that hyper-local content that we're talking about, that content is actually populated on the right-hand side, which again is a scrolling page. On the right-hand side, the last 3 jobs, it says recent waterproofing jobs, because we're in the waterproofing section. So in a different section, it would say recent, that section jobs. So you can see Charlie C, Jim S, and Greg C. Well, each of these are jobs that were completed not necessarily in any one town, they might be in multiple towns, however, they all had to do with waterproofing. So as the new job, the new waterproofing job gets populated, it will move the bottom one out and the top one becomes the new one. And they just continue to scroll, so there'll always be 3 new jobs. Now, why is this important? Well, if a homeowner is coming, they want to see, when they get to this section, say they have a waterproofing issue, they want to see, what have you done for others? What do others think about you? And when they see that you have all these different jobs, and when they click on that, they can see all of the jobs, all of the case studies. So when they see this kind of credibility on the site, they're more likely to convert and have you come out and do an estimate. Now also, let's look at SEO again. Google is looking for this because now they see all of this content, not just what you say on your site, like your competitors, right? Your competitors don't have this stuff. So they want to see, what does somebody else say about you? They can see it in the reviews. They can also see it in the on-the-job content. So this hyper-local content and the ability for you to go into the home and actually take pictures on your iPhone and connect to the platform, which you can do instantly, go to the address of this house, which is a lead that's right on your phone, take the pictures, put a description in of what you're shooting, just like this Charlie C did, and hit send, and it goes right back to here. Now, if you designate what service it is, it'll go to your service page. When you designate the address, it gives you the town, and it goes to your city page. So, guys, it's that easy, but your competitors aren't doing it. This is your game changer. Okay, so that's number 2. The third part of this content where you can use it is salespeople's websites. This is another one that nobody's doing. But think about this. If, as you have your sales team, right, or if you are a salesperson, for a contracting company, how important would it be for you to have your own web page? Now, what's on your web page? Well, here's a company that has meet the team members from Jamison Basement Waterproofing. And Steve Custis is a project manager. He has his own web page, okay? So let's see what's on his web page. Well, there's pictures of him receiving awards on his web page. There's certifications on his web page. There's affiliations that he's involved with. There's, jobs that he's done himself. There's pictures of him, in front of certain landmark buildings that he's worked on. There's descriptions. There's also reviews and testimonials on the right. It's a scrolling page that, if, let's say that he's competing with another contractor for a job, and they've gotten estimates from both, and he sends his prospect to his own webpage, what kind of advantage do you think he might have over the competitor? And who's the homeowner more likely to go with? The guy that is credible, that has all of this content, that's done all this work and has all these reviews, or the other contractor that just came in and he was nice, but he just gave me an estimate? I mean, this is again a game changer, and it's all part of the platform available to you. And this local content again gets disseminated right onto these pages. You don't have to do anything other than in the home take the pictures and send that content back. Okay, so that's number 2. Now I got a special treat for you on number 3. Okay, number 3 is pay-per-click, PPC advertising campaigns, and I've got a special guest today that you're going to really love, and he is the pay-per-click master, and basically what he's going to do is save you a lot of money on making sure your campaigns are running and functioning efficiently, which is key. Pay-per-click is an area that you have to get into. There's so many pros to it. However, don't forget, it's advertising, and if you don't do it right, you can lose your budget. So return on investment is key, and today we've got Braylon Bell, and I want to introduce to you Braylon. He's going to step in and he's going to run through some pay-per-click strategy that I think will really save you an awful lot of money. So no further ado, I'd like to introduce Braylon Bell.
screen yet?
We pull you up right now.
Okay. I guess I can't see myself. Hey guys, Braylon. Thanks for the nice intro, Dan. I've been doing PPC for about 10 or 12 years, off and on. And Dan asked me to put some stuff together. What I thought some crucial stuff that I see clients miss a lot, and that makes the biggest difference. So I have a few things to go over. Pull over this screen.
Okay.
So can I have control of that with the mouse or no?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Alrighty. So you want to pull up the first slide there?
Got it.
Can I see it on here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Can you go to the next one?
Press down. Clicker. There you go.
Alrighty, so targeted ads that get the right clicks. One of the things that makes the biggest difference in campaigns that I see is bid adjustments. And over the years, Google has given us more and more types of bid adjustments. I wanted to go over those real quick with you guys. Let's see, let me pull up the campaign. Dalworth is one of our clients I'm going to use as an example.
You switch over to your screen.
Alrighty.
There you go.
And so what I have up here is some bid adjustments for one of the campaigns. I just want to show some examples of the information that you're able to get from Google and to make adjustments based on. So they've got age, and they've got it grouped up into between 18 to 14, 25, 34, 35, 44, up until 65 plus. They also have unknown, which a lot of traffic comes in. You can't really do stuff with unknown. But all this stuff, what you can do is you can look. And I have the all-time stats up for this campaign, which you can see it's been running for 10 years. So there's a lot of information. Just, there's a total of 16,000 conversions. So once you have a lot of data, you don't need quite this much, but you can start making adjustments to see, okay, where should my money be spent? And so you can see I have some bid adjustments on these age groups here. Really, it's just, let me just show you one campaign so it's less confusing there. So you could see, 65 plus, I'm doing 33% more, 33% more, 80% negative on here. And normally I actually turn off 18 to 24 because a lot of the, depending on the type of client obviously, but people who own homes aren't typically between those ages and calling. So when you do get clicks from those types of, from that age, a lot of times it'll be the wrong click or they won't convert. So basically you can go through here and you can see, okay, out of the life of this campaign, we've had only 163 conversions from that age group. Our biggest conversion on ages we know is 45 to 54. Now that doesn't necessarily mean the most conversions the best, because you could also need to compare, okay, well, what's the cost per conversion? Because you may have more conversions for a certain age group, but if you look at the numbers, you had to spend twice as much to get, or 3 times as much to get twice the conversion. So it actually makes less sense. I had a client just the other day who we looked over his campaigns, just a few months of data, but we could see that he's spending about equal for men and women. But if I look through his leads, about 90% of his leads are men. So I told him, hey, with bid adjustments, it's good because you don't have to say, let's not show these ads to women, but you could just say, let's show them to women, but let's bid 90% less than we normally do, because now that makes sense, because you will get some leads from women, but they're few and far between compared to the men. And I've seen it the opposite. So I've seen, let's bid less for men, let's bid more for more for men. It goes every way. It just really depends on the client. And it's the same thing with all these other bid adjustments. If you see, there's gender. So we can see for the life of the campaign, we have 4,000 more, or we have 4,000 conversions from women and 2,000 from men. But if you look, the conversion rate is pretty similar. The cost per conversion is pretty similar. So even though you're getting more from, if you just looked at this and said, well, we're getting more conversions from women, we need to bid more. Well, they're not necessarily more valuable for you, at least from these numbers, but at least you know what you're working with. But if you looked here and said, hey, we get twice the conversions from women and our cost per conversion is half the price, it might make sense to go here and say, let's decrease the bids on men 80%. Or it may, you know, in the case of ages, like I said, between 18 and 24, and normally, like I said, I do this on age groups, but because this is a branding campaign, if they're searching for Dalworth, you know, we're pretty confident that that's a good call. But normally I would probably come in here and just say exclude from the ad group, not show them those ads anymore at all, because, you know, unless you have an unlimited budget, your goal is to spend your budget on the most, you know, the best ROI. So it's not saying you wouldn't ever get a lead from these people. So, you know, some clients will say, well, I don't want to cut those people out because they will be leads. Yeah, but your money will go a lot further going after your prime candidates. And then if you go after and you say, hey, we're getting 100% impression share on all these other age groups, and we need to be able to spend more money, then you could say, well, let's expand to the younger age groups, because even though the cost per lead will be more, we'll get fewer, we have extra budget to spend. But you always want to spend your main budget on your primary you know, searchers. So same thing with gender. This one's a fairly new one, household income. You can see here you can bid on different groups from top 10% to the lower 50. I've made some bid adjustments here. And this is something that you usually want to tie in with the company, because this could be misleading, because top 10% in AdWords might actually show the cost per conversion is higher. So if I were to say, hey, you know, the cost per conversion on this top 10% is 14, and the 31 to 40% is 11. So it would make more sense to spend my money on this income. But that's where communication with the client's important, because, well, these top 10% clicks are going to bring in bigger tickets and bigger ROI for them. So that's where you need to coordinate it, and you can't just look at this and make all your decisions based on this, because you need to look at the back end and see, okay, well, what's the actual effect of all these changes I'm making? And just like with any changes you make in AdWords, you have to let it gather data before you can decide if it was a good decision or not. Sometimes it's a day, sometimes it's months. It really depends on how big of the change it is. And then, let's see, you've also got bid adjustments for devices. So you can come in here and say, hey, you know, I want to bid more for computers or less for mobile phones. Again, this is branding, so if they're searching for for the company name, I don't really want to do that type of stuff, but it does have that ability. Something to look for here is conversions are typically easier to track on mobile, so a lot of times this will be misleading to say, hey, our mobile conversions are way more, but it's just because they're more likely, well, for an example, if they click on their phone and they click the phone number, Google can track that and say that's a conversion. But if they pull it up on the desktop and they just see the phone number and they pick up their phone that's not attached to any of that and they call it, Google's not going to see that as a conversion. So that can be kind of misleading, but you just have to take that into consideration when you're looking at all that. So really, that's one of the things I see affect campaigns, you know, a lot, and people aren't doing it enough. Because really, at the end of the day, what this does is, if you say, hey, this keyword, or not this keyword, but this age group converts really well for me. You know what? Sorry, I forgot my point on that. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So, you know, actually, I'm sorry about that. I actually did forget my point. Let's see. What was I going to say? Brain fart there. Yeah.
Back to the slide.
Yeah. Sorry, I had a final point about one of those bid adjustments, and now I've gone blank on there. I'll remember it later. I'll tell you guys randomly. So, yeah. Let's see.
Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah. Okay. I had a final point about bid adjustments. I wanted to kind of wrap up the whole idea that it was about conversions. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. There's something about conversions. Let me say this. I started off, I'm using conversions to decide all of this, and that's really important, because if you're not tracking conversions, all you can see is that people came to the site for certain searches, and if you don't have conversions to look at, then you don't know whether it was successful or not. So when you set up campaigns, the only reason I'm able to do this, and I think this was my point, is that I do have conversion tracking set up. If not, I would come in here and I'd be able to say, okay, well, you know, this age group clicks more and shows up more and costs more. The clicks cost more, the clicks cost less, all this stuff. But what is actually happening with that type of client? And you cannot know unless you have conversion tracking set up. And the two things you really always want to track for conversions is phone calls and form submissions. Some clients like to track other stuff, like you can track whether they stayed on the web page longer, whether they visited more than one page, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, whether they actually called you or filled out a form is really what matters. And especially with service and contractors and stuff, that's really what they want. They're not really going for, hey, they stayed on our web page for 10 minutes, maybe there'll be a customer eventually. Really, they want the lead. So that's what you have to do and set up in order to get this, the bid adjustments working at all. So, alrighty, and the next one. Alright, detailed landing pages. So, getting the right traffic is you know what? And I just remembered what I was gonna say. So, told you. What I was gonna say is that if you make a bid adjustment on a keyword, and let's say that you say, for this search term, I'm gonna bid $5. After the bid adjustments, let's say that is a 18-year-old girl on a mobile phone, and you can make bid adjustments on zip codes as well. So in a zip code that's far away from you, that doesn't have a good history of converting, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and she's in the lower 50% of income. That $5 click, if you have negative 20% for age, negative 50% for mobile, that $5 click becomes a 20-cent click. And it can go the opposite way. If it's a 55-year-old man, he's on his desktop, it's at 11 a.m., it's on a Monday, that $5 could be $50. But what you know at that point is you're spending your money a lot more wisely, as opposed to something like TV where you're paying the same to show every single person. There's no difference. With this, you can say, I want to spend my money on what type of visitors have brought me conversions in the past. So with that said, all this traffic converts at a landing page. And this is one of the biggest factors in whether a campaign is successful or not is where you're sending them. So when you're doing pay-per-click traffic, it's a lot different than search engine traffic, because with search engines, you can't always decide what page they're going to go to. And you also have to put a lot of content on there for the search engines to read, and you have to put all your stuff on your website. If you have 10 things you do, you have to put it all on the site. With pay-per-click, you know exactly what they searched for. So if you do AC repair, but you also do duct cleaning, you don't really want to talk about duct cleaning on the page you're sending them to. That doesn't mean you never want to mention it, but it doesn't need to have a big section. It doesn't need to be distracting ultimately. So with landing pages, what we do is, and we don't do this with all clients, it depends on a lot of variables. If they have a website that's already been built and has kind of separated and it works, great, let's go with that. But typically what I like to do is I'd like to do A/B testing and say, let's send traffic to your website, and then let's make a landing page and see which one converts better. And then basically just constantly be doing that, and using the benefits from the one that worked, and then trying, switching that out and then trying something else. And so that's what we do. And one of the tools we use for that is a software as a service called Crazy Egg. Can you switch me back over to that? Alright, so Crazy Egg is basically just website tracking and gives you a lot of information. So this is an example of a Dalworth rug cleaning mobile landing page that we have set up. And this is one of the things it shows you is a heat map. And what this does is it shows you what are the most popular pages or parts of your website. So you can see here, the heat map is the hotter, the white, this is the most popular, this is where they stop. And it also, so you can look on your web page and see, okay, well, what are they not interested in? And as soon as it starts getting cold, you can say, okay, well, maybe I could take that part out. So, these parts right here, they're kind of getting bored at this point, and they're stopping to scroll. They stop scrolling. So you can also, actually the heat map is that and the scroll map combined. This is an easier way to look at it, but the same information. So you can see, okay, maybe our page is too long, let's cut out some stuff. What part don't they stop on, and then get rid of that. So our landing pages start out with what we think the customer would want, and then we edit it to show, hey, we thought the customer would care about this, but they're scrolling right past it, so let's take it off. And so that's how these web pages evolve over time. And the confetti is essentially where the clicks were, so you can see, okay, well, Because some stuff they can't click, but you still want to know they're reading it at least. But you're never going to know through interaction that they're doing anything. And that's what the scroll map is for. This is to actually check if they're clicking on things. And so one of the things this shows us is people are clicking on our list of rugs. Well, these aren't links. So what I've done in the past is I've said, hey, a lot of people tend to think this is a link. Let's make this a link and let's send them to like the free estimate or something. You can see here, the free estimate gets lots of clicks. No one's clicking on this, but as we can see with the scroll map, they're scrolling. So really, so that's the mobile version, and then we have tracking set up for the desktop version as well, which essentially tells you all the same stuff, but they're different enough to need different tracking on, because like you can see here, the desktop version has frequently asked questions we don't have on the mobile version because it's just a little too much information to get on there. So we have both set up. So that's pretty much how we do our landing pages. We use that software. There's other software that can do it. I recommend Crazy Egg. It's very easy to set up, and if you have multiple clients, you don't have to go through a lot of hassle to set up each one. It's really easy. So, all right, next section.
Tracking results.
Tracking results. If you want to bring me back over to the tab. Alrighty, and once you do all this, one of the most important things to do afterwards, like I said, you have to collect data, is analyzing how it affected you. So, one of the easiest ways to do that is just to do a comparison in AdWords. So right here you can see I have it set up for this month, and I'm comparing it to last month. And this is one of the things I'll do with clients is, okay, we made these changes, we changed the landing page, we changed the keywords, we made bid adjustments, what's actually happening? So once we do that, like I said, it depends on a lot of variables. If it's a big enough change and it's like, hey, we're targeting a brand new keyword that's going to bring in a lot of searches, you may know within a day or two, like, hey, we brought in 100 clicks and none of them converted, let's stop it. But typically the changes are going to be more slight, like, hey, we've, even in the example of, hey, we're bidding 80% less on men this month, let's see what happens. So then at the end of the month, you say, okay, let's see what happens. And if it went the wrong direction, don't necessarily blame it on that change, because a lot of times you're making multiple changes, but you need to get in there and see the difference. So one of the examples I wanted to use here again on the branding campaign was a change. One of the AdWords recently has been adding a lot of different types of bidding, and one of the things they've done is give you the option to bid by impression share. Basically, impression share means your keywords, how often are they showing up? If you want to target the keyword basement waterproofing, you can look and say, what's my search impression share on this keyword? And say it's 50%. Then you'll know, hey, there's 50% of the time people are searching for this search term, I'm not showing up. And it kind of gives you where you're at in the market. And sometimes customers want to be 100%. So before they would tell you your search impression share after the fact, but now they've given you an option to say what you want your impression share to be, and then they try to figure out the bids around that, kind of reverse of how it used to be. So we started, really a month or so ago, I switched over their branding campaign because a lot of competitors bid on this client, so their bids slowly have gone up over time. Basically, they're always going to get the cheaper click for your own brand name, but if a competitor is willing to pay $50 for your name, you're not going to be paying $1 anymore. In order to get above them, you may have to pay $3. Now, you're not paying $51 to get above them, but you do have to pay more. So what's happened over time is their branding campaign kept going up and up and up. So and that was half of their budget every month. So what one of the things I tried a lot of different stuff, was I switched the bidding. And so we went over this with this client, and looking through this, really, let's see on here. See how I want to compare this. So you can see the comparison, and for this we'll use we'll just do the whole campaign here. So let me go back to the ad group. So you can see, and I might need to zoom in. I might help you guys. So you can see here in the parentheses is the previous month. So we're comparing this month, and let's compare the actual instead of to the whole month. Let's do the 1st to the 23rd on both months. And that's a more accurate comparison. So you can see we've had 10% more clicks, 23% more impressions. Our click-through ratio has gone down 11%. Our average cost per click has gone down 50%. And this is the big factor, because now I can say, hey, this time last month you had spent 50%. So their clicks last month were almost $5. This month they're $2.38. And we can see and so that's a direct effect on the changes we did. We did other stuff besides just the impression share, but that's a direct change on what we did there. So let me see. Let me finish the. That's not have that. Okay. The cost has gone down. You can see they spent $3,000 this month just on their own branding. Last month they had spent almost $6,000. So that change. Going through here and comparing it, we would never know unless you go here and you actually track it and say, okay, that's it. And now because of that change being effective, now I can try to apply that on other campaigns, as opposed to, hey, they have a new bidding strategy, let's apply it on every single campaign. Oh, let's check it next month, it didn't work. Try it on one campaign, it worked. Look through the data, compare it. Now I'm gonna use that strategy on other stuff. So that's just one way to compare the data. But it is extremely important that when you're making any of these changes, what you think might happen, it really doesn't matter. You have to go through, you have to look at it, and you have to see how it actually affected it. So that's all I have on the PPC. All right, thank you very much for your time. If you guys have any questions, I'm sure there'll be a way to contact me. I don't mind answering any more specifics about any of this. Thanks a lot.
All right, Braylon, thank you very much. Wow. That was detailed. The biggest thing that I came away with is that there's so much more to pay-per-click than we perceive, right? And there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I know we got a little more detailed than you guys are understanding, and even more than I do. But I wanted you to hear that because I wanted you to see just how in-depth you can get to be efficient and effective with your pay-per-click dollars. And the problem is that a lot of the companies out there, a lot of the internet marketing companies and PPC companies, they don't specialize in contractor. So I mean, you've got to know contractors. You've got to live the contractor world to be able to relate to the pay-per-click and to all of the different variables that Braylon was explaining. So thank you, Braylon. That was great. I mean, that was over my head, but it's just good to see the level of what we need to do. All right, so we're going to wrap it up. We've got two more of our 5 sections, and I want to run through these with you guys. Lead source tracking. Basically, what that is knowing where your leads are coming from. Okay, it's crucial to be able to spend more money where it's working and less money where it's not, but you have to know, right? You got to track. You got to be able to also listen to your calls. So having call recording on every single call that comes into your website is key, because now I can not only know where my leads are coming from, but I can also listen to how my call center is handling the incoming calls. Are they taking care of those calls? Are they converting those calls at a conversion rate that should be 90%? Anybody that's calling in, I mean, 9 out of 10 of them, we should be going out to the home, right? So lead source tracking is crucial, and knowing, you always heard that adage, hey, half my marketing's working, but I'd never know which half. Well, it's true. And when you know where your calls are coming from, when you know what lead sources are providing you with the actual appointments, and then let's take it a step further. You can then follow through and say, okay, I ran that lead, did I sell it or not? And if I did sell it, how much did I sell it for? And you can also say, well, which person went out to the home? So I can track the phone call that came in and who answered it. I can track my call center, and I can track the conversion rate of each call center person. I can also track my sales team. I can track my sales team on every time they ran an appointment, how many did they sell? What's their closing ratio? And I can also track the dollar per sale. So now I know how my salespeople are doing. I also know how my lead sources are doing, because I can track that from the lead source all the way through to the end. Now, can you see the benefit that being able to create that level of tracking and understanding of what's going on? I can not continue to spend, let's say I'm doing a Valpak, mailer campaign. And if I'm not tracking, I'm just trying to sense, oh, am I getting more calls? Am I getting less calls? But what if I put a dedicated phone number to that, and I put a dedicated URL, a domain name, for that campaign? And I track that on my website through the Jupyter platform. Now I know, did I get any calls directly from that Valpak drop? And I paid $2,000, so how many calls did I get? And if you're tracking, you could run it a couple times and decide, like Braylon was saying on the PPC tracking, you could decide, do I want to continue this campaign or do I want to end this campaign? And if you're not tracking, you might run that campaign, you might do 6 drops all year long. And 4 of those drops you could have stopped and utilized that money to what was working. So, I mean, you can see it's part of the ROI, the return on investment, part of your marketing strategy is really helped by knowing what's happening and what's going on. And that's why I put this in as one of the 5, right? And the last part of this section is accountability for your KPI people. So it's each of your employees, each of your departments, when you track the way I was mentioning, now you've got accountability and you can actually help them to get better. So that's number 4. And the last one I wanted to mention to you is, what do you do with your existing customers? Now, this is not directly related to internet, but it kind of is, because if we spent money to generate that lead on the internet and we didn't cultivate that lead and we didn't take care of that customer once it became a customer and squeeze everything we can out of them, then we hurt the success of our internet marketing program. So again, part of the Central Station marketing technology that we've incorporated into our platforms and that we work with our clients with is the ability to take that lead, see where it came from, see how our employees handled it, raise that conversion level to a set appointment, track that appointment, turn it into a client, but then what we can do is continue to communicate with that customer to upsell. Let's say they didn't sell, they didn't buy, and we didn't sell it. Well, we can continue to communicate with them and provide the benefit of the service that we proposed that we didn't sell, right? And we can, sometimes, people don't buy for a lot of reasons. It might have been that the salesperson, they had a conflict with their personality, but they still wanted to buy from you. But if we never talk to them again, we have no chance, right? So if we can get back to them and we show them the value of what they missed, it could be with a video, it could be with an email, it could be with a phone call, it could be with all 3, which is really the way to do it. The more efficient you get at communicating with your existing customers, the higher you raise your closing ratio and you maximize your leads. Now, let's take the flip side. Let's say that we did sell the job, but we sold 1 service. And you saw all those services that we might provide, and let's say we provide 5 or 6 different services. Well, we can continue to communicate with that customer and upsell the additional services. Now, maybe they didn't want to buy them at the time, right? Maybe somebody said, hey, I spent $5,000 to solve this problem. I'm not going to spend another 5 today. But what about next year? What about 6 months from now? What about that salesperson that I showed you, the salesperson's web page? What if that salesperson's proactive and communicates with that customer and offers that other service that they didn't buy? Now, look at what you've done. You've doubled the value of that customer. You've doubled the value of the lead that was generated. So I think it's important to consider what we can do when we're communicating with our customers and what we're doing to cultivate a lead. A lead isn't just, oh, hey, they called in, but they didn't set the appointment, so I forget them. No, a lead is somebody had an issue, somebody had a problem, they looked us up, they want help, let's do everything we can, let's call them back. Hey, are you guys calling back after hours? Are you calling back on the weekends? Are you calling back at dinner? I know those are all cliches, but the reality of the situation is, as a contractor, when you generate a lead that came in from the internet and it wasn't a phone call, you need to call them back at dinner time. When you get a lead that comes from a, let's say it's a home show or a fair or a festival or something you went to, you have lead slips, you need to call them back at dinner time. You need to call them back on Saturday. They work during the week just like we do. So if we only call them during a work week, we're never going to get all of those converted. And then the last part of this one is referrals, testimonials, and reviews. So what we want from our happy customers, right, is we want them to refer us to their friends and family. We want them to give us, again, the reviews and the testimonials that we put back on our site, that, as we talked about at the beginning, that helps us to get more leads. So it's all maximizing the efforts, and that's number 5. So to wrap up today, guys, and again, I really appreciate your time. I hope you really got something from these 5 transformative areas that you can implement in your company. But I promised you that I would give you 3 secrets, and I promised I'd leave you with these. So here they are. And these secrets are areas that really will set you apart from your competitors. So these are the areas that you can really springboard and dominate your marketplace, right? And we've got huge success stories of our companies that have done this. Number 1, first and foremost, is city pages rank for Google. I mean, if you don't remember anything else, remember that one, because city pages rank. So what that means is that you don't have to be in the town, and Google cares a lot about where you are. So why this is so important is that we want to rank even outside of where we are. In fact, most of the time, our office is not in the best area for us to generate leads. But we want to create city pages that will generate leads in those towns, and they work. But you have to have the ability to get that content quickly, easily, and inexpensively onto your website. That's where the Jupiter platform comes in. That's the differentiator. So that's a huge key, and you can rank in areas that you want to rank in, regardless of where you live and where your office is. Number 2, Braylon showed you that PPC is a high-risk, high-reward venture, meaning you have to do it. The reward is domination when you don't rank organically. In other words, I can rank for pay-per-click any time of the year for any service I want without having to have my site organically ranked for those terms. That's big. However, you saw how complicated it is. If you do it wrong, you can lose your shirt. If you have the wrong company doing it for you, you can spend a lot of money and not get a lot of results. But if you track it and you have someone that's as meticulous as Braylon is, you can then get the high reward part of it without losing and without risking. So you got to be careful, and you got to be really pay attention to, is the person that or team that's doing your pay-per-click, are they capable at that level, and do they go to the extent that someone like a Braylon does? Number 3 is know what's working and what isn't working in your company. Track, look, record your calls. Make sure that you know what do you want to spend more money on and what do you want to spend less money on. I mean, that seems like a pretty simple one, but you'd be surprised that not many companies even do it. So they're just kind of spinning their wheels, and they're wondering why they did a lot of work that year and they didn't make any money at the end of the year. Well, that's why, because you're just losing and wasting that level of money when you don't know where it's going. So those are the 3. City pages, focus on them, get the unique content. Pay-per-click, make sure that you are focused on it. You have somebody that knows how to guide you and knows your business. And 3, track, and know where you're spending money and where you're wasting money. All right, that's it, guys. Thank you very much for joining, and we look forward to hearing from you, and we'll let you know when the next webinar hits. All right, have a great day.